Against the pristine obsidian floor of the diplomatic hall rested a single drop of human blood. It was vibrating. Perfectly concentric ripples disturbed the crimson surface long before any orbital engines ignited. A subharmonic frequency had already begun to hum through the bedrock. Exactly 14 billion casualties would eventually be traced back to this precise coordinate on the diplomatic world of VOLS-9. The origin point of the massacre was not a missile launch, nor a devastating plasma barrage from a dreadnought. It was merely the heavy, scaled fist of Warlord Zylak striking the human envoy across the jaw. The strike, they were all recorded with trembling digits. The junior Drac scribe gripped the ceremonial heavy obsidian date pad, ensuring the optical sensors captured every brutal angle of the human's collapse. Zylak towered above the fallen diplomat. His thick neck scales flared in absolute territorial dominance. He drove a closed fist against his own stern twice. Inevitable victory. The part that still haunts the Drac's archives. It wasn't the first human ship that arrived. It was what they brought with them. Silas Graves did not scream. The human pushed himself onto his knees, spitting a cracked tooth on to the polished stone. Slowly, deliberately, he straightened his left shirt cuff. Then, he retrieved a silver analog pocket watch from his vest, checking the sweeping second hand with flat, unbothered eyes. The metallic ticking sounded exceptionally loud in the cavernous hall. Yield the border systems. Zylak commanded, in a guttural bark that rattled the crystal transcription arrays, or your outer colonies burn. Graves snapped the watch closed. Do you possess a cloth? He asked the terrified scribe. I would prefer not to stain the treaty parchment with my hemorrhage. Within 72 hours, the recording of the assault leaked across the galactic extrenti. Virol monitored the chaotic human response from the Coalition's primary observation deck. Across 3 neighboring sectors, heavy human merchant vessels abruptly diverted from their established trade routes. Planetary communication grids went completely dark. Deep space monitoring buoys shut down entirely, leaving only the cold, metallic static of the void echoing in the Drac's listening posts. To the Drac's Coalition command, the sudden silence translated to total submission. Warrior species roared when challenged. Prey species hid. Virol cataloged the blackout as a mass panic event, noting how the humans retreated deep into massive subterranean structures on their outer rim worlds. Zylak observed the tactical displays with deep, rumbling satisfaction, tapping his sternum again as the mighty Drac's orbital fleets prepared to seize the silent territories. The Coalition warships spun up their plasma drives, expecting to slaughter cowering refugees in the dark. They found only ghosts. Through the thick atmospheric interference of the first human colony, the Drac's targeting lasers simply bent and dissipated into harmless light shows. Virol stared at the sensor readouts in mounting confusion, his rigid posture faltering. Massive electronic warfare fields, generating highly localized gravitational disruptions, or scattering the orbital bombardment before the beams even breached the thermosphere. The sheer scale of the defensive grid, no Drac's engineer had anticipated. It required an obscene amount of power. Beneath those impenetrable, humming energy shields, the human colonies were not cowering in fear. They were digging, and they were waking something up. 7 standard rotations passed before Drac's sensors pierced the interference. The silence Virol categorized as cowardice resolved into terrifying telemetry. Across 80 rim worlds, billions of human citizens hadn't fled into reinforced bunkers to await their inevitable slaughter. They had descended into subterranean assembly lines. The human total war economy had engaged a synchronized awakening. That deafening roar of industry belonged to the Quantum Forge, a hyperlinked network of automated munitions factories, deep within the VOLS-9 citadel. Warlord Zylak awaited orbital confirmation of the colony's destruction. Nearby, an elder Drax archivist meticulously refilled a delicate, silver-written nutrient ink vial, carefully adjusting his gold-tipped stylus to draft the formal subjugation decree. That decree would remain unwritten. What happens when a warrior empire strikes a species of waking factories? The answer materialized without warning, a nightmare in steel. Above VOLS-9, the skies darkened with iron. This was no passionate armada of human soldiers seeking righteous vengeance for their fallen envoy. It was a mathematically perfect grid of armored drone dreadnoughts, churning out of slit space at 10,000 holes per hour. Downward plunged the mechanized invasion. Frantically, the Drax coalition fired their plasma batteries, incinerating the first wave, then the second, then the third. It did not matter. The automated ships did not feel fear or hesitate. They simply outproduced the coalition's capacity to destroy them. For every defense grid depleted, the Forge spat out 50 replacements. A relentless siege clamped around the planet. The deep citadel bedrock began a violent, continuous shudder that rattled the teeth. On Commander K. Elen's heavy desk rested a fragile sculpture of starlight glass, a prized, irreplaceable heirloom from his homeworld. As the subharmonic frequency of 1,000,000 atmospheric entry burns slammed into the tectonic plates, the delicate object vibrated violently. It collapsed into fine, sparkling dust. Silas wiped the blood from his jaw, checking his watch as the sky ignited. The analog ticking, Theo realized with nausea, had never been a coping mechanism. The human diplomat had been mathematically calculating the broadcast delay, the civilian mobilization window, and the transit time of the Forge's first wave. He had known the exact second his retaliation would arrive. 14 billion. That was the grim casualty projection flashing across the tactical displays before the planetary defense network completely collapsed. Gone erased by relentless, unfeeling mathematics. Zylak's territorial dominance meant nothing against an enemy that weaponized its own supply chains. The warlord raised a fist, tapping his sternum twice. This time, his scaled hand visibly trembled. Ash drifted slowly through the shattered skylights of the main hall. Thick gray dust coated the crushed starlight glass. Across the severely cracked obsidian table, a single object was pushed forward. The heavy ceremonial recording data pad rested precisely over the original bloodstain. Beside its dark screen sat a fresh, unstained sheet of unconditional surrender parchment.